Good evening, and a warm welcome to our viewers. Tonight, we delve into a question that has captivated thinkers and shaped nations for centuries. Is democracy truly the superior form of government? This debate remains profoundly relevant as countries worldwide continue to grapple with the complexities of governance in an ever-evolving global landscape. Joining me are two distinguished guests. Professor Alistair Finch, a staunch advocate for democratic principles, and Ms. Zahra Al-Jamil, a policy analyst known for her critical perspectives on its practical limitations. We will begin with opening statements, followed by 2 rounds of moderated discussion, and conclude with closing remarks from each speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. It's a privilege to address this crucial question. Democracy, for all its acknowledged imperfections and the challenges it faces in practice, remains, in my firm conviction, the most ethically sound and practically effective form of government that humanity has yet devised. At its very core, democracy champions indispensable values: individual liberty, the sanctity of human rights, the fundamental right to self-determination, and the unwavering principle of equality before the law. These are not mere abstract ideals. They are the bedrock upon which just and humane societies are constructed. Historically, the trajectory of democratic nations, though not without its detours, has largely correlated with unprecedented progress, enduring stability, and significant economic development. Consider the post-war reconstruction of Europe, the flourishing of innovation in North America, or the vibrant, diverse societies that have embraced democratic governance across the globe. Furthermore, democracy incorporates vital mechanisms for accountability. Free and fair elections, the critical separation of powers, an independent judiciary, and a vigilant free press are not merely features. They are essential safeguards against the concentration and abuse of power. This institutional framework ensures that those in authority remain answerable to the populace they serve. One of democracy's most significant strengths is its inherent adaptability. It possesses a unique capacity for self-correction, for learning from its mistakes, and for evolving to meet emergent challenges, whether social, economic, or technological. The challenges we observe, political gridlock, the influence of special interests, or voter apathy, are, I contend, primarily issues of implementation and require diligent reform, not a wholesale abandonment of the democratic project itself. The fundamental tenets of democracy offer the most robust foundation for a society that strives for justice, prosperity, and dignity for all its members.
Dr. Hayes, Professor Finch, thank you for the opportunity to engage in this vital discussion. While the ideals underpinning democracy are undoubtedly laudable, liberty, equality, representation, its practical application in our complex, modern world frequently falls disconcertingly short of these aspirations. This necessitates, I believe, not a rejection of these ideals, but a courageous and critical reevaluation of democratic systems, and an open consideration of alternative or supplementary governance mechanisms. We cannot ignore the inherent vulnerabilities that contemporary democracies exhibit. Pervasive political polarization often grinds policymaking to a halt, transforming governance into a zero-sum game, rather than a collaborative pursuit of the common good. The insidious influence of money in politics skews priorities and undermines the principle of one person, one vote, while the alarming susceptibility to populist rhetoric can lead to dangerously simplistic solutions for intricate problems. Moreover, the often cumbersome and slow pace of democratic decision-making, while intended to be deliberative, can prove a significant handicap when confronting urgent crises that demand swift, decisive action, such as pandemics or rapid environmental degradation. This inherent inefficiency, coupled with the pressures of electoral cycles, frequently fosters a culture of short-termism, where long-term strategic planning essential for societal well-being is sacrificed for immediate political gains. We must also seriously question the extent to which elected officials genuinely represent the diverse will of all their constituents. Is it truly, quote, government by the people? Or does it often devolve into a system primarily catering to vocal minorities, powerful lobbies, or a tyranny of the majority that marginalizes less powerful voices? Finally, it's crucial to acknowledge the global context. The assumption that Western-style democracy is a universally applicable or desired model is a form of political ethnocentrism. Different cultures and societies, with unique histories and values, may find alternative governance structures more consonant with their specific needs and contexts. My intention here is not to advocate for authoritarianism, but to challenge the dogma of democracy's unquestioned superiority and to stimulate a more nuanced, pragmatic exploration of how we can improve governance for everyone.
Thank you both for those compelling opening statements. Professor Finch, Ms. Al-Jamil raises some very pertinent points about practical challenges, political polarization, the influence of money, and what she terms inefficiencies and potential for elite capture within democracies. How do you reconcile these tangible difficulties which many citizens experience with the idealized vision of democracy as a government, of the people, by the people, for the people?
Those are indeed significant challenges, Dr. Hayes, and Ms. Al-Jamil articulates them well. However, I believe these are not indictments of democracy's fundamental principles, but rather symptoms of its imperfect execution, which demand robust and continuous reform. Elite capture, for instance, is a perversion of democratic ideals, not an inherent feature. It calls for stronger campaign finance regulations, greater transparency in lobbying, and measures to prevent the revolving door between public office and private enrichment. Political polarization, while exacerbated by modern media landscapes, can be countered by promoting civic education that emphasizes critical thinking and respectful dialogue, as well as electoral reforms that encourage coalition building rather than zero-sum competition. The resilience of democratic institutions lies precisely in their capacity to acknowledge and address such flaws. The ongoing struggle for civil rights, for environmental protection, for economic justice, these have all been advanced through democratic processes, however arduous. It requires unwavering civic engagement, a commitment to the rule of law, and a willingness to adapt and innovate within the democratic framework, not to discard it.
Ms. Al-Jamil, Professor Finch underscores the foundational importance of accountability mechanisms and human rights protections that are, at least in theory, integral to democratic systems. He argues these are best safeguarded within a democratic framework. From your perspective, are there non-democratic systems, or perhaps significantly modified democratic systems, that you believe can reliably and consistently offer these crucial protections? And if so, how might they function?
That's a critical question, Dr. Hayes. While Professor Finch rightly champions accountability and human rights, we must be honest about the fact that even established democracies can falter in these areas. We've seen instances of state overreach, erosion of civil liberties in the name of national security, and systemic discrimination that persists despite democratic frameworks. The ideal doesn't always match the reality. When considering alternatives, it's not about finding a perfect non-democratic utopia, as that doesn't exist. Rather, it's about exploring elements from different models. For example, some argue for technocratic bodies, composed of impartial experts, to handle highly complex long-term issues like climate change or pandemic preparedness, insulated from the immediate pressures of electoral cycles. These bodies would still need to be accountable, perhaps to an elected oversight committee or through transparent performance metrics, but their primary focus would be evidence-based policy rather than political expediency. Furthermore, various forms of deliberative democracy, such as citizens' assemblies chosen by sortition, can bring diverse, ordinary voices into policymaking, potentially offering a more representative and less polarized form of input than traditional electoral politics alone. The key is to ensure robust checks and balances, regardless of the specific model, to prevent any single entity from accumulating unchecked power, which is a risk in any system, democratic or otherwise.
Professor Finch, Ms. Al-Jamil mentions the, quote, tyranny of the majority as a potential pitfall. How does a robust democracy guard against this, ensuring that minority rights and perspectives are not only protected but also valued?
A cornerstone of any genuine democracy is precisely the constitutional and legal protection of minority rights. It's not simply about majority rule. It's about majority rule with entrenched safeguards for all individuals and groups. These safeguards include an independent judiciary capable of striking down discriminatory laws, bills of rights that are difficult to amend, and a culture that promotes tolerance and respect for diversity. An informed and empathetic citizenry, fostered by quality education and a responsible media, is also crucial in resisting majoritarian overreach.
If I may, Dr. Hayes? While constitutional safeguards are essential, their effectiveness often depends on prevailing political will and societal attitudes. We've seen how easily such protections can be eroded or selectively applied when popular sentiment, fanned by demagoguery, turns against a particular minority. An informed citizenry is also an ideal that is increasingly challenged by disinformation and echo chambers. This makes the practical application of those safeguards incredibly complex.
Let's move into our second round. Ms. Al-Jamil, you've touched upon this, but considering the sheer complexity of 21st century challenges, climate change, pandemics, rapid technological advancement like AI, are traditional democratic structures, designed in different eras, agile and responsive enough? What specific alternatives or hybrid models do you envision as potentially more effective in navigating these multifaceted global issues that demand long-term vision and often rapid, coordinated action?
Indeed, the speed and scale of contemporary challenges often outpace the deliberative, sometimes ponderous nature of traditional democratic processes. For instance, addressing climate change effectively requires consistent, long-term policies that transcend short electoral cycles and nationalistic interests. I envision hybrid models where, for specific, highly technical domains, decisions could be significantly informed or even delegated to expert-led bodies, as I mentioned earlier. These bodies would operate with transparency and be accountable to democratically elected institutions, but their focus would be on scientific evidence and long-range impact assessments, rather than immediate political calculus. Citizen assemblies, chosen by sortition to be broadly representative, could deliberate on complex policy trade-offs, informed by expert testimony, and then provide recommendations that carry significant weight. This fosters deeper public engagement and can bypass partisan gridlock. Furthermore, enhanced local governance and forms of subsidiarity, where decisions are made at the lowest practical level, can increase responsiveness and allow for tailored solutions, while supranational cooperation on global issues must be strengthened, perhaps with new institutional frameworks that have more teeth.
Professor Finch, that's a compelling vision of adaptive governance. In light of global trends such as democratic backsliding in some established democracies and the apparent confidence of rising autocratic powers, how can existing democracies better demonstrate their intrinsic value and bolster their resilience? What reforms do you believe are most crucial to reinvigorate the democratic project and counter these concerning developments?
The challenge is undeniable, Dr. Hayes. First and foremost, democracies must deliver tangible benefits for their citizens: economic security, social justice, and effective public services. When democracies fail to address fundamental needs, they become vulnerable to disillusionment and the allure of simplistic, autocratic promises. Strengthening democratic institutions is paramount. This includes electoral reform to ensure fairer representation and reduce polarization, robust anti-corruption measures, and unwavering protection for the independence of the judiciary and the media. Combating disinformation and foreign interference requires a multi-pronged approach, investing in media literacy, supporting quality journalism, and holding social media platforms accountable for the content they amplify. International cooperation among democracies is also vital to present a united front against authoritarian encroachment and to share best practices in democratic renewal. And critically, we must reinvest in civic education, not just as a school subject, but as a lifelong process of fostering informed, engaged, and responsible citizens who understand their rights and their duties in a democratic society.
A pertinent question for both of you as we navigate this era. How does technology, particularly the pervasive influence of social media and the rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, impact the functioning and public perception of democracy, for better or for worse?
Technology is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can empower citizen movements, facilitate information sharing, and enable new forms of democratic participation. On the other, as we've seen, social media can become a breeding ground for disinformation, echo chambers, and extreme polarization, eroding trust and reasoned debate. AI presents even more profound challenges and opportunities, from algorithmic bias in public services and surveillance capabilities that threaten privacy to its potential use in sophisticated disinformation campaigns. Conversely, AI could also be used to analyze complex data for better policymaking or to create more personalized civic engagement platforms. The governance of AI itself is becoming a critical democratic issue.
Ms. Al-Jamil is absolutely correct about its dual nature. Social media has, in many instances, fractured the public square, making consensus harder to achieve. The anonymity it can afford sometimes unleashes incivility that would be unacceptable in face-to-face interactions, further degrading political discourse. With AI, the potential for manipulation, whether in elections or in shaping public opinion through deepfakes and targeted propaganda, is immense and deeply troubling for democratic integrity. However, technology also provides tools for transparency, for fact-checking, and for connecting citizens with their representatives. The key is to develop robust ethical frameworks and regulatory oversight to mitigate the harms while harnessing the benefits, ensuring technology serves democratic values, not subverts them.
In concluding, my critique of contemporary democratic practice is not a veiled endorsement of authoritarianism, but an earnest appeal for intellectual honesty regarding its manifest limitations in a rapidly changing world. I've highlighted concerns regarding inefficiency, the dilution of true representation, and the urgent necessity for more adaptable and expert-informed governance models to tackle existential threats. The path forward requires us to move beyond a dogmatic adherence to any single system. We must foster a culture of continuous dialogue, courageous experimentation, and pragmatic innovation in how we choose to organize and govern ourselves. Our goal should be effective, just, and resilient governance that genuinely serves all people, drawing on the best ideas, wherever they may originate.
Thank you. While I acknowledge the validity of many challenges discussed, I reaffirm my conviction in the fundamental and enduring strengths of democracy. Its core tenets, the protection of human rights, inherent mechanisms for accountability, and its unique capacity for peaceful transitions of power, remain unparalleled. Democracy is not a static utopia. It is a dynamic, continuous work in progress, one that demands active, vigilant, and informed citizen participation to thrive and to reform. Its flaws, though real, do not necessitate its abandonment, but rather call for a robust recommitment to its foundational principles and courageous, thoughtful reform from within. Despite the turbulent currents of our times, democracy, for all its difficulties, still offers the most promising and ethically sound framework for fostering human flourishing, individual liberty, and a truly just society.
Professor Alistair Finch, Ms. Zahra Al-Jamil, thank you both for an exceptionally insightful and rigorously argued debate this evening. Your contributions have illuminated the complexities of this vital question. We've explored the enduring values and adaptability of democratic systems, weighed against critiques of their practical shortcomings, and the compelling call to explore innovative governance alternatives. The quest for the ideal form of government is, as ever, an ongoing and crucial conversation for all societies. Thank you to our audience for joining us.